the reason why Squid Game became really popular is related to like Heungbu mentality,
Yes, yes, yes.
right?
Today, we were thinking about doing something on literature, and I do modern literature in the classroom and pre-modern literature, but I'm more comfortable with pre-modern literature. So we were talking about different pre-modern literature, and I suggested this one,
Not the classic.
Heungbu와 놀부. I think there are several levels of understanding of Heungbu. First level is it's a children's story. In 한국말로 아동문학이라고 해요.
Right.
Yeah. And it's good children's literature. It's got magic. It's got a good guy and a bad guy. It's there's a good lesson to be drawn from it. And that's the second level of understanding, is a morality tale, that good is rewarded and bad is punished. Jiyoung, what do you know about the Heungbu story?
Well, I grew up listening to that story. The only like impact that I still carry from the story is that the good gets compensated and the bad gets punished. That was the very 권선징악. That was the very core idea that I learned as a kid. And I remember the swallow, the seeds, pumpkin seeds, and brothers, like the bigger one, Norbu, right? Norbu's the bad guy.
Yeah, he's the older brother.
Right. I remember that.
There's a third level, and that is to look at it historically. The way it was presented historically was a pansori. And pansori is singing. We sometimes call pansori Korean opera.
Right.
But it's different from opera. Opera, you have elaborate staging and many people, but this is just two people, just the singer and the drummer. So there were 5 pansori that we still have. We lost a bunch of them, we think, but there are 5 that we have, and 3 of them are the 3 Confucian tales, Samgang Oryun, and the morality of Confucianism. There's Heungbu, the story of older brother, younger brother. There's Chunhyang, the faithful wife,
Right.
and there's Shimchang, the filial daughter. So those are the 3 great Confucian values that are taught through pansori. The author is a big question, because the author is unknown. Right. It was the pansori singer would develop the story, and each singer would change the story a little bit, add this, take this out. So it was always changing. It was a very dynamic story because it was being told orally in song and then in legend. So there's no author, which is really interesting. Right. Have you ever thought about that? That most of the Korean stories do not have an author, which is an interesting thing, because I think it tells us something about Korean Yangban. The Yangban were probably the people who wrote the stories and told the stories, because they were the educated people. But they didn't want to put their name on it. And so a lot of times people say it was not Yangban. A good friend of mine is a specialist on Hyangni and Ajan. And he says they were the ones that did the writing of the stories.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. So let me ask this question. Who is the audience for Heungbu? Who would be listening to the Heungbu story? And the answer is, first of all, children, right? It's good for children.
Right.
It's a good story for poor people, because poor people can see hope in the story. Is it a story for rich people? The rich people wouldn't like it, huh? It's critical of rich people. So it has a little bit of a social commentary. There's one more level that I think is important, and this is one that I've written about. And this is that I think the Heungbu story is protest literature. 한국말로 저항문학.
저항문학. 예.
And what is it protesting? We've already talked about Pinbu, the rich and the poor.
Right.
It's protesting the rich and the poor. But there's another very important thing that happened, and that is at about this time the story was written, Korea changed its inheritance system. Korea used to have an equal inheritance. All the sons got equal parts of property, and the daughters too. The sons and daughters got equal shares of property. About this time is when Korea becomes Puge Sahoya, the patrilineal society, where everything goes from the eldest son to the eldest son to the eldest son to the eldest son. So this story is about Nolbu, the eldest son, who gets everything. See, the question is, why is Nolbu so rich and his little brother Heungbu is so poor? I mean, they were both raised in the same family. They should be equal. But no, at this point in the late 17th, early 18th century, the inheritance laws changed so that Nolbu gets everything and Heungbu gets nothing. So I think this story is a story of the time of the early 18th century, protesting the unfairness, the inequality of the eldest son getting all of the riches, whereas the youngest son doesn't get anything. So I think it's chohangmunhak, it's protest literature. And as people go and hear the story from the pansori singer, or they hear someone tell the story, the eldest son is, oh my, oh, this is criticizing me. And the younger son, the second son, the third son, the fourth son said, yeah, right on. This isn't fair. There's finally two more things I want to say about Heungbu. One is the restaurant theme. In Korea, there's Nolbu Chip, Nolbu Shikdang.
Oh, yeah, we have franchise using that name.
Yes, it's a big franchise. The idea is, if you're going to go to someone's house for shiksa, would you want to go to Heungbu's house? No, he doesn't have anything. Let's go to Nolbu's house. Nolbu's got some good food. In Korea, it's sort of in your face. You know, Nolbu는 좋은 양반이야. 야, 아주 음식이 좀 좋다고 저 Nolbu 집에. Which brings me to the final thing I'd like to talk about, and that is, in South Korea, Nolbu has the restaurants. In North Korea, everybody loves Heungbu. In North Korea, a diplomat, one of my friends who was in the American embassy, he went to Pyongyang about 10 times. And he said every time he went to Pyongyang, there was a Heungbu story. There was a Heungbu pansori, there was a Heungbu Yeonghwa, there was a Heungbu play. There was always something Heungbu. Why? The North Koreans are poor. They're like Heungbu. South Koreans are rich. They're like Nolbu. They go to Nolbu Shikdang. So I've got these levels. It's a children's story. It's a morality tale. It's a historic pansori. It's protest literature, and it's Shikdang yagi.
I have one quick question regarding that mentality. Do you think the reason why Squid Game became really popular is related to like Heungbu mentality?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Worldwide Heungbu mentality. Yeah, right now.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that Heungbu shows up in Squid Game? But that's exactly right.
Bunch of Heungbus, yeah.
Yeah, all of the Squid Gamers, they're all Heungbu, and they're all desperate because they don't have any money and they need some money.
Right.
And I guess the manager of the Squid Game, the bad guy with the mask, he's Nolbu. That's my analysis of Heungbu. I think it's a great story that we can understand in several different levels. What do you think? 설득됐어요? Are you convinced?
Yeah. I've never really seen that story from that light until this moment because of course, when you write a story, you think about the audience and everything. And the fact that we are drawn to that sort of stories these days is kind of sad because we're living more of the reality that's closer to Heungbu's, not Norbu's. So I think it's something that I've never thought about before. I never really saw 흥부전 from that aspect.
Well, next time, let's look at Chunhyang or Shimchung, or maybe both of them, because I've got a different analysis of that as well.
Okay. Awesome.
I think you might enjoy that too. Okay, 박지영 씨, 너무 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 다음 편에 또 뵙겠습니다.
예, 다음에도 봅시다.
네.
안녕히 가세요.